Sir, go right here, and then we'll come right here. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Springfield's got a lot of great history. I believe it's this very building where Orville and Wilbur Wright came to see their attorney for a patent for the airplane. We have a lot of great history in this town, and I've been a lifelong citizen here for 59 years, and I have my trucks loaded for the last of my things outside. When I was a little kid growing up, I don't want to sound like a speech. I'm going to try to make it as quick as I possibly can. I see these infomercials on television about these little bony Haitian kids with the bloated stomachs and the flies flying all over them, and I would cry myself to sleep growing up. I was traumatized by that. It mortified me. And I was so proud of my family. It's something that nobody in this room knows about, just a little piece of the great history of the city of Springfield. I'm related to all of the well drilling companies in the 1970s, the well drilling companies of Springfield, Clark County. I'm related to all of those people, pretty much. I think all of those companies. And they, on their own dime, went to Haiti on their own dime and drilled the water wells that gave them fresh water to drink. And that came from Springfield, Ohio. And I don't think anybody knows it. It was just a little piece of history I'm proud of. Nobody would know that. We got a whole movie of it, but nobody's ever talked about it. But my family's dealing with some things. My sister got hit left of center. Somebody went left of center with no license and no insurance on my birthday a year ago. And so now the taxpayers are in it now for about $400,000, and she's had multiple surgeries and still can't walk. She didn't get to be there and hold her babies, her grandbabies that were all being born and things like that. And I have my issues with my health issues that's preventing me from working, and so you try to get into a hospital that's 100% capacity, and I hear that it's half, that a third, that one whole wing of it's HIV patients. Don't know, but you try to get your testing done, your MRIs, your X-rays. You try to get your EMGs. I scheduled an EMG on June 11th. I was still employed at that time. You know, they was very patient with me. But I just got my EMG just the other day. And so we're dealing with just my own family and some of the things that we're dealing with. You know, it's something that's near and dear to my heart is the motherless kittens in the alleys of Springfield. Where's the mothers? Okay, there's the animal thing. If we can't care for the least of these and kittens, I don't think it's something for the Kamala should be laughing about.
I agree with you. Thank you, my man. What's your name? Kevin. Thank you. Thank you. Give this man a round of applause for his love of the history of this city. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. I'm with Moms for Liberty in Madison County, but our youngest daughter does go to school here in Clark County. One of the questions that really I want to focus on are what is the plan for us to safeguard the educational system here in Clark County, mainly Springfield City Schools, for our children? Because as we know, our educational system is failing our kids. It is, our taxpayer dollars are always being used against you, just in case you weren't aware of that. Property taxes that are being paid are going to these school districts who are wasting money. They're not educating, they are indoctrinating. We now have an influx of people coming into these schools that the focus is on them because they have not assimilated, they do not know the culture, they do not know the language. What is happening to our kids is not fair. So what can we do to safeguard our American citizens, children, so that they're not sitting in class not being engaged for 8 hours a day?
Thank you. From a dad to a mom, thank you for that. I'll give you a couple of pragmatic answers. One is, actually, the schools are strained for dollars. Public schools are. I got a good place to find them, actually. So there's about $80 billion spent by this behemoth thing called the U.S. Department of Education. First step is shut that down and send the money back to the people of this country. That would actually work pretty well. The second thing is, so I gave you, and it's one of the things I want to try to develop over today. It's not something I'm preaching at you, but I want to hear from you and tell me what you think of it. In developing a sensible immigration policy for this country, especially now as it affects our schools. So I gave you one principle earlier, which is that, and this is legal immigration. The easy stuff is, okay, if you're in this country illegally, send you back, build the wall, use the military, use aquatic barriers. That's the easy stuff, all right, to get that done. That goes without saying. But on the hard stuff, if you're going to depend on the welfare state, you don't get in. Here's one more, too. I believe that you should be able to speak the language of the United States of America, English, in order to enter. And as it relates to schools, that burden alone, it's not going to fix all of the problems that you just asked about, but that alone is actually going to go a long distance in relieving the pressure on a lot of schools, especially public schools, when it comes to language as a basic barrier. Versus, there's actually many more people who do want to come to the United States of America than can, who have skill sets, don't depend on the welfare state, and know English. If you're going to pick the limited number, you may as well pick the ones that are most likely to be able to assimilate, most likely to be able to be participants in economic action, and those who are able to actually integrate their kids into the schools. That would be a suggestion I'd offer, and you guys let me know what you think. But thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. A couple months I'll be a resident of Springfield, Clark County for 61 years. If our city council and everybody wants to be a part of the solution, just sitting right there by the door, I haven't seen a single one of them come in here.
All are welcome.
Yo, this is really cool, man. This is what's needed. I said in the comment section that people are starving for conversation because Vivek says it. The folks are starving for conversation. No one trying to have any of these conversations, and no one's trying to do anything about it. We got folks trying to have the conversation. This sparked folks to do something about it legally, like going out and voting or going out and picking the right folks to lead their communities, their states, so on and so forth. Like, it's just interesting. Or just, yeah.
Well, thank
This
you.
is good, though.
And I know that there were all kinds of one thing I will own.
Talking to the
this rests
people.
on me. So on Saturday night, I was having dinner with my wife and a couple of friends. We were talking about what was happening in Springfield. It felt silly for me not to be here. I got up my phone. I put out a tweet. I said, I'm going to Springfield. Thursday was the first day I could be free to get here. I want to thank Jim Lagos because I think it was very difficult to find a spot to host this. So he did a great job of volunteering this space for us. But I under-anticipated. There's 2,000 RSVPs, and we only had space for 350 people. So to the extent somebody couldn't get in, in a town of 60 to 70,000 people, that says a lot. But regardless, if people couldn't get in, that's on me.
I'm Mr. Ramaswamy. Thanks for coming tonight. Definitely appreciate it. I've been a lifelong resident of Springfield for 46 of my 50 years. 4 of those were spent in the U.S. Navy. So I know the city very well. So prior to the arrival of our immigrants, we were suffering from, as many American cities have, and we continue to suffer with the drug epidemic and homelessness, among other issues that's plaguing our city and the country. And now with having an additional 15 to 20,000 new residents in such a brief period, our already burdened sectors of government, private, and public resources are now critically overwhelmed. I voted for President Trump in 2016, 2020, and I will again on November 5th. President Trump vowed to do, quote, large deportations from Springfield, Ohio. But like you said earlier, most, if not nearly all of the immigrants here are here legally. So the notion of deporting all of them and then everything will be okay is not based in reality. So my question to you is this: what realistic plans can you, President Trump, and Congress produce for Springfield and cities like Springfield to be able to adapt and thrive for all of us, both citizens and immigrants?
That's a great question.
I appreciate your thoughtful question. I don't agree with 100% of it, but I appreciate you identifying who you're voting for, but still are able to ask tough questions. I like that. So I'll say something here. First of all is The most important part of your question is we can fall into a trap, and I don't want to see us fall into this, is there are real problems that we need to address in this country that actually have nothing to do with immigration as well. And I think that we can sweep a lot of that under the rug. Those are failures of our elected and increasingly unelected leaders of the country that we got to address by way of economic growth in this country, wage stagnation in this country. You think about even workforce training and preparedness for the changing economy, our reliance on China for our modern way of life. These are big issues even outside of the specific immigration and mass migration issues. So part of your point is we can't sweep all that under the rug and just blame it on immigrants. I agree with you, actually. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. How are we going to achieve mass deportations? Well, first of all, you got anybody who's committed a crime in this country, anybody who is actually currently detained. That's an easy set of deportations right out the gate. You're talking about millions of people that fit those two categories together. That alone would be the largest mass deportation in American history. The next thing you got to do is, it's like you got a clogged drain, right? What do? First thing you do is you turn off the faucet. You don't try to clean the drain while you leave the faucet on. Use our military to secure the border. Use the National Guard if necessary. Aquatic barriers in the Rio Grande. And yes, complete the construction of the wall, which is not a racist or xenophobic action. And so the way I think about it is, let's just talk about some principles we can agree on. All right, maybe if I was writing this down, we'll be a little more precise, but I'll give it to you kind of off the top here. Think about it like your body, right? Violation of your consent. A nation's body is its land. No migration without consent, number one. Number two, consent should only be granted to migrants who benefit the United States of America. And number three is, those who enter without consent shall be removed. And if anybody wants to disagree with me on that, that's fine, we can debate that, but I haven't met an American who actually disagrees with those three principles. So if we all agree on it, the country that put a man on the moon can get this job done. It's just a question of actually having the will to do it. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. I saw an article, I think it was Epic Times, where they were talking about there are 5 companies who want these Haitians here to be workers because they need the manpower. And I don't know how many of you know, I found this out accidentally. There is a massive, massive Amazon fulfillment center being built down, I think, at the south end of South Charleston. I'm sure a lot of these people are being brought in for that as well. If these companies, these big companies, need these people, why are they not paying their way to get them here and house them? Especially Bezos, he's got plenty of money. If he needs those people, we've got some greedy landlords putting out long-term renters who are gonna, a lot of them end up on the streets. They're getting rich, putting 20 migrants in a house. They're getting $200 per migrant in these houses, and the long-term renters that pay $700 to $900 are out on the street. How do we stop that?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of this comes from, I think, special currying in favor to industries that manage to lobby for advantages to them. One of the things is, even in the legal immigration system, people don't talk about this. Even actually the immigrants who are left holding the back. So the H-1B system, for example, you can't even switch companies. You're attached to just the company that brought you. You know who lobbied for that? The very companies who got the advantage from the law in the first place. So I think this is one of those cases where, and here, I've heard tales of the ways in which these companies are actually subsidized particularly. I want to get to the bottom of those facts. But if we end lobbying in the federal government, I think that actually solves half of this problem. To say if you've served in Congress or served in the Senate or served as a bureaucrat, for at least 10 years you can't lobby that same government, half of this melts away right there. And so fix the corruption. Wow. Half the problem is that government's actually responsive to the people of this country. Again, thank you for that question. I appreciate it. I was got my back to them the whole time.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Ramaswamy, and much respect, too, for the climate here. It wasn't exactly welcoming. But I was a little concerned about the topic of this conversation, the dialogue for unity, because I think one thing we should be united on, there simply are too many mass migrants here in this town. And they're too richly subsidized. It's pushing people out of their homes. It's pushing people out of jobs. I know there's employers that say they need the employees. Amazon's just fired hundreds of people to replace them with migrant workers. So we need less migrants in this town. We can't absorb them. We need to take some of that money that's being given to them and give that to people in the community who've been harmed by this. Maybe give some money, maybe give some...
Let him finish.
Yeah, and maybe give some money to local businesses so that they can upgrade their equipment rather than hire low-wage, no-skilled migrants. Let's upgrade their equipment. Maybe give some grants to the tech schools so that we have kids qualified to run modern equipment. And
Let me ask you a question, because I said my objective here is also to inform my own views, not reading what I need in the newspaper, but hearing from our fellow citizens. What do you believe should be the criteria for the kinds of immigrants or migrants that Springfield should want to keep versus the criteria for Springfield to want to expel, or not allow in the future? What would be your perspective
Well, see,
on?
I mean, if it was up to me, we'd start all over. We'd send them away and start all over because they were brought in without our consent. You know, some people were getting rich off of it, but it's harmed the rest of us. If there are people who are working and these are honest jobs, fine. If they're here, just again, they're taking up Social Security. 20,000 people here, and from our former state senator said that they are getting an average of $600 to $1,600 a month in Social Security. So to say it's an average of 1,000 and say there's truly only 20,000 here, that's $20 million a month being spent in one county just to subsidize these people, and that's driving other people out of their homes. We could take that money, like I said, give it grants to businesses so they can modernize. Instead of bringing in migrants to work low-wage jobs, let's make the high-wage jobs, and let's train our kids to take those jobs. That would cost a lot less than $20 million a month.
What's your name, my man?
Bill
Bill?
Monaghan. Yeah.
I appreciate your thoughtful perspective. I'll give you mine here, all right? Because I think that this is so, the situation is so broken, the status quo, that I think it's pretty coherent to say, you know what, just start with a blank slate and start over. Here's my view on it, is that there's a dishonesty to the current program and the justification for it. And here's the dishonesty I'm talking about. Right? It's usually an economic justification for a program that actually was not economically motivated in its first place. So the program I'm talking about, many of you are I've been surprised talking to people in Springfield today how knowledgeable people are on the actual legal details even. But the program I'm talking about is Temporary Protected Status, TPS, okay? It was designed as a humanitarian program largely used after the earthquake in Haiti in 2010. And I think it is beyond bizarre that we should somehow assume that all of those people organically just decided to come to Springfield, Ohio. I mean, I love Springfield, Ohio, don't get me wrong, but I think that most of them on the CBP One app, which is what they use to come into the country, check Chicago, Miami, New York. I don't think Springfield is on the list. So I think that that's also a separate question, which I'm open to taking some questions and comments on. That I think that there's been some hard questions asked about exactly what the heck is going on there. But in response to that, I'm not in favor of necessarily throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in the sense that if you had somebody that came in 20 years ago there's a whole range of other countries too. I mean, people who are maybe a doctor in the community who trained in the right way, came legally, that'd be one thing. But if somebody came here through temporary protected status, which is a humanitarian program, and now you're using an economic justification to keep them, that's dishonest. So that's dishonesty. And I think we got to at least be honest and speak the truth. And the T in temporary protected status means something, right? It stands for temporary. So all I would say is if you want to bring people to the country economically because it's going to benefit the citizens of the United States, pass that through Congress, make the justification, and say how it helps Americans who are already here, and do it honestly, through the front door. But don't do it through the back door, because that's just dishonest and erodes public trust in our system and in our government, and I think it's another example of our government systematically lying to us. So that's where I land on it. Thank you. Thank you.
I agree with that too.
Question. My name is Chrissy. You
Interesting.
came here from your hometown. We have city officials that live right here in Springfield and have not set up a meeting like this for Springfield. You said your tickets were free, right?
Yes, they are. We're not making money tonight.
Okay, listen to me. But why can't the city officials, I'm serious, why can't the city officials do this? Go to the north, south, east, and west of Springfield, maybe get people that want to come, and find out what their really living circumstances. And here's why. We're paying for those, right? I've been in Springfield for 66 years. I know a lot about Springfield, okay? So my take is, if you don't talk to people, even Haitians, I have Haitian friends too. I know all of them are over here illegal too. But what I'm saying is, this is a community. If you want to be open about things, talk to the people. Don't just make it seem like President Trump did, like everyone's lying. They don't really know, if they're not living on that side of town, what really goes on. So how will you know about a city if you're not bringing the people together, right, and talking to them? It's called Communication
What's your name?
101.
What's your name?
My name is Chrissy.
Chrissy, I appreciate you being here. So, I'll tell you what I think is actually going on, okay? The first thing I'm going to say it may not be very popular in this room, but I'll tell you the truth, okay? This is what I truly believe, so I'm going to share it anyway. Actually, before I came here, I was in City Hall. I met with a number of the city officials. I invited them to be here tonight.
None of them pulled up.
Productive, because I don't have the power other than through philanthropy or through public advocacy to change something here. And we'll try to use the power of, my platform voice to cause positive change here. But I invited them to be here because they're in a position to run the city. And I'll tell you what I believe. I know many of you may feel like your leadership doesn't care. I met with them. I don't think that's true. I think I sat there for an hour with them after we met with the Haitian group. I think they actually really do care, at least the subset I met with. And I know that's not a popular view maybe in this room. But I will tell you what I do see happening in the country. I think there's a culture of fear, actually.
Wow.
I think the reason they're not here tonight is not because they don't care about this. It's because they're scared, actually. And I think that culture of fear has spread like an epidemic across our country, where actually what you really need is just transparency. You report to the people. If you work in a company, how many of you, anybody in here work in a company, okay? Your CEO is the boss of your company. But people mix this up. When you're in government, and you're a city official, or you're a mayor, or whatever, your boss is actually the people who are in this room today. And it's not just the people in the city who mess that up, that's the federal government as well. And so what I hope to do today is to show that actually talking to the people of Springfield isn't that scary. The way the town council meeting, somebody came up, will be demonized for speaking about their own experience. We're live streaming this for the world to see that actually these are just good, patriotic Americans who love their country and love their city, who are struggling because the people who they elected to run their federal government all the way down have let them down.
Wow.
And you don't have to be scared of actually being face-to-face with your fellow citizens. So I did my best. I can't control what they do, but I did do my best to highlight this today.
If there's fear, and I'm going to say this, and people might not like it, and maybe I shouldn't say it because my family's probably going to say something too, but I'm a black woman in America. I'm going to put that. I've been in IT for over 40 years. I'm usually the only black, and usually it was men that I work with, right? And so what I'm saying is there is that fear factor. There's a fear factor because you go in a place, you don't really know anyone, but you got to meet people, right?
Right.
But the city officials, and I agree with you, I don't think all of them are that, but forget about the fear factor. People are hurting.
I agree with you.
And to be honest with you, I came up here for one reason. Hopefully they hear me. I live all over Springfield. I've been living in different parts of Springfield, okay, and I'm 66. But what I'm saying is people were afraid of me. The workers that I work were afraid of me because I was different, and they would tell me that after they became friends. I don't want to hear this fear factor, right? People are hurting. People are living in conditions that people don't know about at the official level because they don't live with those people.
Yeah, that's well said. I got a question for you. I got one question because you brought it up, right? You said you're a black woman growing up here. Okay, so I grew up here, guy with brown skin, spent a lot of time in Springfield. You're a black woman who lives in Springfield. So that the rest of the country can hear you, is Springfield a racist city?
To be honest with you, there are people there, but after they get to know you, that's gone.
Yeah, so
I live where there wasn't a lot of blacks over there, right? And we were only 30 years. We built our house. My husband and I, we've been together for 51 years, married for 46. People were afraid when we moved in the neighborhood, okay? Okay? All my kids, 3 with masters, or 2 with masters, bachelors and everything, but they had block parties where everybody in the community around there for blocks around came and had parties and talked. The kids played with each other. Kids don't have fear. It's the adults that have fear.
exactly.
So that's what I would say. If I would say anything, do
that's
a
powerful.
big thing. We got the fairground, we got Snyder Park, we got the
Love that.
reservoir. Bring everybody together, and I guarantee you Haitians would come. But then you talk with them. Listen, you're going to have bad in every race. Forget it. Let's be real, right? There's not one that doesn't have a nut in the tree someplace, and that's just the truth. That's the truth. It's the truth. So bring them all together, and then make the Haitians feel welcome. But they also have to learn our culture. And the
Right.
biggest thing
Yes.
is they don't know how to drive. They don't, I know, because where they practice at is a church that I did attend, and they run into stuff, but they don't mean to, because
Wow,
guess
this is
what?
crazy.
The culture in where they came from is not our culture, and our
Right.
culture's not there. We have to learn. But if everybody's so fearful, just leave Springfield and put somebody that's not fearful. That's what I would say.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's powerful.
So am I allowed to move around a little bit with the microphone?
What's that?
Am I allowed to move around a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
with the
absolutely.
microphone?
That
I've
way we
been
can
bringing
get-
everybody
we
here,
can get
but I want
around.
to try to get, okay.
Exactly.
So I'm going to,
Absolutely.
why don't you come over here and we'll do your question here, and then I'm going to start coming around a little bit.
We'll
if
go
that's
to this
okay.
side over here. Yep.
What's up? You look really good in person, by the way, too, man. My name is Brock Inge. I've lived in Springfield 28 years, all my life, pretty much. Since this story leaked, and this is something that everyone needs to hear, the hateful language in this community has spiked. It's really, really bad. I'm half black, I'm half Hungarian, I'm half black, half white, whatever you want to say. I've become a target of the hate. I can probably count on my hand, both hands, how many times a racial slur has been said my whole life. I've been called the N-word twice this week by just people who group me. It happens. Even though my skin may be lighter, I think people just group us together. There's horror stories of people who are darker skinned that have been chased down by people who are white, saying, get out of this country.
It's
Friends
very
of mine,
interesting.
friends of friends, and say, like, get out of here, you're Haitian, we don't want you here. Even with the 6-month-old baby at a grocery store. So regardless, I find it shameful and I find it inappropriate whether I'm Haitian or American. What would you say to my fellow people here in the community in regards to this rhetoric? I don't think it can be tolerated.
Tell me.
Brock.
Brock.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a serious question. I want to take a minute to address this. I could speak some truth here. I'm in the camp of long-standing believing that the United States of America is not a racist country and the least racist country known to mankind. I have never experienced that type of invidious racism growing up. But I also want to speak a hard truth here, because there's something going on in the country right now. When I say right now, I'm talking like the last 9 to 12 months in this country. There is a weird uptick in racial tension in this country that did not exist in the 30 years that I grew up right here in Southwest Ohio. And I'll tell you what's going on, because this gets to the essence of what's going on in this country and bothers me. Take the immigration issue. You take 20,000 people who are unprepared to integrate into a community, dump them into a city of 50,000, you're going to get a reactionary response. Then you demonize the people who have the reactionary response, who say,
Right.
oh, you're blaming me. They're
It's
going to
crazy.
have ill will, in this case, towards the Haitian community. On the racial point, let me mention this too, because I see this happening. There's no better way to create racism in America, anywhere, than to take something else away from someone's family because of their skin color. So whether it's a seat in college or whether it's a job or now even forms of federal aid under the likes of Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris, say that you only get certain forms of aid. If you're a racial minority, if you're black or Hispanic, that actually creates more racial animus in response. And so this is what I think many people on the right sometimes miss, which is that are these anti-racist programs, are they racist against whites or Asians? They are, but actually it's not just that it's racist against whites and racist against Asians. It is literally fueling a new wave of anti-black racism in the country that otherwise would not have existed if it weren't for those woke anti-racist policies in the first place. It is divide and conquer. It's the
Interesting.
media.
Very
The media's
interesting.
throwing kerosene on this. And so here's what was
It's
happening.
like the
It's like
DEI.
the final embers of racism were burning out in America. And then they're throwing kerosene on it all over again. It is a divide and conquer strategy. They want to divide us on ourselves. And you know who it's up to make sure they can't get away with that? It's up to us. It's up to we the people to say hell no to that vision. You will sell us this myth that we're divided. You're going to try to pit us against each other. But you know what? We the people who are citizens of the United States of America are the people who we actually elect a government to represent, and all of us are American regardless of our race or creed, and that's what made this country great the first time around.
Wow.
And that's how we're going to make this country great again. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, bro. Okay. Oh, yeah.
He got the picture with him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. So I have a young daughter. I have two daughters, actually. And one of my daughter is younger. So I want to talk about the crime a little bit.
Sure.
Personal crime. So she's been followed around Walmart. She's been stalked. She ran to her car, threw her stuff down, ran to her car. She was chased. Okay? They were immigrants. She was chased by a man with a machete on her way to work. Called the police. She told them what had happened and wanted to file a report. 2 hours later, the police still had not called her back and never checked on the crime. So that's how you know there's no crime in Springfield, because no one's reporting it.
That was your daughter. So and do you, I mean, I guess, does she have any sense for whether those were illegal immigrants into the country? I mean, she probably wasn't conversing with them while they're chasing her with a machete, but okay, readily identified. See, here's the thing, and it's uncomfortable to say this, but it's true. If your first act of entering the country breaks the law, then you're more likely to break the law when you're already here, right? And this is, I don't like just talking about the easy issues. Let's talk about the hard issues. I mean, they hit President Trump a lot for the so-called, the one they really tried to nail him for was the family separation policy, right?
Right.
Anybody in this room know how many mothers in the United States of America are in prison right now? It's about 350,000, actually. And yes, I have a book coming out next week, and I've got a Fox Nation special coming out next week. It's called Truths. Lays out a lot of these hard truths. That's one of the truths. It's a hard truth. It's about 350,000 mothers who are in prison. You know who we don't make them take with them? We don't make them take their kids.
Children.
Right?
Yeah, they're all left
And we
alone.
say that, that's a difficult situation, but you deal with it in a different way. And so I think we have to restore the culture of the rule of law in this country. In this town alone, double the number of shoplifting crimes in the last 2 years. 2 years is not a long time for shoplifting rates to double. Auto thefts are up by over 50% in that same time frame. And as you said, based on your daughter's story, that's against the backdrop of many of them likely even going unreported. We got to restore that culture of the rule of law, but part of the reason we're seeing this too is that many illegal immigrants into this country, many other criminals in this country, when they see the top law enforcement agencies in the United States of America themselves not following the law, then they rightly ask the question, well, why the heck should I have to follow the law anyway? So top to bottom and bottom to top, we have to restore the rule of law in the United States. It's who we are, and that's how we save this country. So I appreciate that. I'm glad your daughter's safe. Thank you for sharing the story. Appreciate it. Tell her to stay safe too. Thank you.
When the illegal immigrants are coming into not only Springfield but throughout the country, and they get their benefits and they check a box to register to vote, that's a very big concern. What's your thinking about illegals voting?
Yeah, I'm against it. That's sort of where I land on that question. I actually I spoke to President Trump earlier today, and one of the things that makes a lot of sense is, the thing about him is he says a lot of things that make sense, and sometimes the things that make sense hurt your feelings a little bit for a while, and then you got to get over it and realize that actually there's a hard fact at the heart of it. So there's this statute called the SAVE Act. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. And it's this really controversial law that says that if you're going to vote, you have to be a citizen of the country. And you know what? For some reason, we just can't get that through. And actually, it's not just Democrats. I think that they have a lot of Republican reluctance around this too, which is strange to me, I think that...
Yo, shout out to Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm so glad that he actually pulled up and did this town hall. It sounds and looks like these folks are pretty happy that he did as well. He's answering a lot of people's, or this is getting a lot of people's perspectives out there. I'm very interested in hearing what you folks think. Please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like, share, and the subscribe button. It's your boy Kicking It with Timmy B, checking out Vivek Ramaswamy out there in Springfield, Ohio, talking to the residents about what's going on. It seems like that there is a lot of issues that are being had dealing with illegal immigrants. Let's see where this goes.